The Whispering Shadow. Nestled deep in the heart of a dense forest was an old mansion, abandoned for decades. The villagers called it the Whispering House because of the eerie sounds that emanated from its walls during the dead of night. Some said it was the wind, others claimed it was the restless spirits of those who once lived there. For years, no one dared to venture close, until a curious journalist, Aryan, arrived in town. Aryan had heard the legends and decided it was the perfect story for his magazine. He was a skeptic who didn't believe in ghosts, but loved uncovering the truth behind mysteries. With a flashlight, a camera, and a recorder, Aryan made his way to the mansion one stormy evening. The mansion was a crumbling relic of another era. Vines strangled the stone walls and the windows were shattered, their jagged edges resembling fangs. As he stepped inside, the floorboards groaned beneath his weight, as if protesting his intrusion. Dust and cobwebs hung in the air like ghosts of neglect, and the scent of decay was overpowering. Aryan set up his recorder and began narrating. "This is Aryan Sengupta, exploring the so-called Whispering House. Villagers claim it's haunted, but let's see if there's any truth to these stories." As he wandered through the dimly lit corridors, the whispers began. Faint, barely audible, like the rustle of leaves on a still night. Aryan paused, straining to hear. The whispers seemed to come from all directions, surrounding him like a shroud. "Hello? Is someone there?" he called, his voice echoing down the empty halls. There was no response, but the whispers grew louder, morphing into incoherent murmurs. A chill ran down Aryan's spine. He shook it off and continued exploring. In one room, he found an old diary lying on a table, its leather cover cracked with age. He opened it and began to read. The diary belonged to a woman named Mira, who had lived in the mansion with her husband Rajan decades ago. The entries spoke of a happy life at first, but soon took a dark turn. "Rajan has been acting strange," one entry read. "He talks to someone in the shadows when he thinks I'm not watching. I can hear whispers at night, but when I ask him, he denies hearing anything." Another entry, written in shaky handwriting, chilled Aryan to the bone. "The shadows are alive. They whisper to me now, too. Rajan has vanished, and I fear I am next." Before Aryan could process what he had just read, the temperature in the room plummeted. His breath fogged the air, and the whispers returned, louder and more distinct. This time they formed words. "Leave, before it's too late." Aryan's heart pounded, but he refused to let fear control him. He grabbed his camera and began snapping photos of the room. As the flash illuminated the darkness, he caught a glimpse of something in the corner, a figure, cloaked in shadow, watching him. He spun around, but there was nothing there. His pulse raced as he reviewed the photos on his camera. In one of them, the shadowy figure was unmistakable, a tall, dark silhouette with glowing eyes. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind him. He ran to it, tugging desperately, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers turned into guttural growls, and the shadows in the room seemed to writhe and stretch toward him. "Who are you?" Aryan shouted. "What do you want?" A deep, raspy voice answered, seemingly coming from the walls themselves. "You shouldn't have come here. This is our domain now." Aryan's flashlight flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Panic clawed at him, but he forced himself to stay calm. He fumbled for the recorder in his pocket and pressed play, hoping to capture evidence of the voice. To his horror, the playback revealed something even more chilling. Instead of his own voice narrating, the recorder played a woman's voice. "They took him. They'll take you too. Run! Run!" Aryan bolted from the room, his flashlight sputtering back to life just long enough to guide him down the hall. He could feel the shadows closing in, their icy presence brushing against his skin. He stumbled into a grand hall with a massive chandelier hanging precariously overhead. The whispers turned into mocking laughter, echoing around the room. The chandelier began to sway violently, as if an unseen force was trying to bring it down. "Stop!" Aryan yelled. "What do you want from me?" The laughter ceased, replaced by silence so profound it was deafening. Then the voice returned, louder and more menacing. "Leave, or join us forever." Aryan didn't need to be told twice. He sprinted toward the front door, which miraculously creaked open as he approached. He burst outside into the storm, the rain soaking him instantly. He turned back to look at the mansion, and for a brief moment he saw them. Dozens of shadowy figures standing in the windows, their glowing eyes fixed on him. He didn't stop running until he was back in the village. Breathless and trembling, he told the villagers what he had experienced. They listened in silence, their faces grim. One elderly woman finally spoke. "You're lucky to be alive," she said. "The shadows in that house are not of this world. They are the remnants of a terrible ritual performed by Rajan long ago. He sought power, but what he summoned consumed him and everyone else in the mansion. The shadows feed on the living. You must never go back." Aryan nodded, vowing to heed her warning. He left the village the next morning, his recorder and photos as proof of his harrowing encounter. But the story doesn't end there. Weeks later, Aryan reviewed the audio recordings in his city apartment. Amid the whispers and growls, a single phrase repeated over and over: "We're coming for you." And one night, as Aryan lay in bed, he noticed a shadow in the corner of his room, darker than the rest. It whispered his name.